9 a.m. 2023 for the Neighborhood Restoration and Beautification Commission. We'll start with call to order.
Lucas Richardson.
Here.
Jermaine Sullivan.
Here.
Kathleen Grabowski's absent. Kelly Greavy.
Here.
Mary Kay Wilcox.
Here.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Now that I see Kevin's here, I would like to make a motion to add to the questions for city attorney. We could just add on that as well. Kevin Griebel discussion.
I'll second it.
Roll call. Lucas Richardson.
Yes.
Jermaine Sullivan.
Yes.
Kelly Greavy.
Yes.
Mary Kay Wilcox.
Yes.
Okay, next item is public comment on agenda related items. Are there any public comment this time? Doesn't sound like it. All right, moving on. Approval of last meeting minutes. I do have two things, and I don't know if anybody else does, but there's a section in the minutes that says "My Hope" with MY, and that should be MI because it's it's a Michigan program.
Okay.
So that's My Hope, and then also it says 530 Grant Street, and it should be 530 Davis Street. So does anybody else have any other comment or revisions on the minutes?
Here's item.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with those two revisions.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Lucas Richardson.
Yes.
Jermaine Sullivan.
Yes.
Kelly Greavy.
Yes.
Mary Kay Wilcox.
Yes.
Okay, unfinished business. The first item, hopefully everybody had enough time to review. I didn't get any comments, so at this time I think we can vote on approving the bylaws as they are. George did revise the parks comment in the duties section. And then once if we do vote to approve these bylaws, then I believe they go to city council for approval as well.
So can I ask a question?
Yep.
So I was just looking at, when they said membership down there, and it says on B, at least one member should be from a local service. So we don't have one, do we need to have one? From a JC, Habitat, or something?
Yeah, so I think that's language that was straight out of the ordinance too, and I know Kelly and I were both a part of a service group at the time, and she's also still a part of Manistee Proud, so
So that works then?
I think we're still
Okay.
into the, I
think it's a goal anyway.
Yeah.
Isn't the language crafted? It's
Okay, sorry.
a goal.
the goal
Sure.
and the
Okay.
mandatory.
Yeah, it does say at least one member should be.
Yeah, it should
Represent-
be, so if you can't, I think you're okay.
Okay.
Are you JC's?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
And on D, the city staff member would mean Jermaine, correct?
No,
City
that'd
staff
be-
is me.
that'd be
That's you?
Chief Glass,
She's a
yep.
city council,
Okay, but you don't have a vote, so don't.
correct.
Okay, I thought it had.
The ex officio member, I believe, means that they don't have a vote.
Unless you say otherwise, they don't.
Okay.
I make a motion to adopt the bylaws.
I'll second.
Um,
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
What about the 5 members? Were we gonna
So
discuss that?
we can discuss it. I did reach out to both Mary and Kathy separately because Kathy wasn't here on one of the meetings and then Mary wasn't.
Right.
And I got kind of a consensus that it would probably pass to keep 5.
Hey,
But we can vote on that separately if you'd like.
Kathy told me that she would vote for it. Did she tell you she would vote against it?
In the last meeting, she said she was on the fence, so.
Okay.
But Mary said she was going to vote for the 5, so and that would be a quorum of 3.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't want, what would be the reason why we wouldn't want 7?
I can let everybody speak to that, but
I just feel if we add 2 more members, then we gotta start all over with what they wanna do, what projects they think, I think that's gonna halt us. I mean, I don't know what the benefit of having 7 is.
More ideas, more diverse education, more experience?
But that's why it's an open meeting, so people can come and people can volunteer and give us their feedback.
I just wanted to be on the record that I would want 7. I think 7 would really make a huge difference
And-
in all aspects.
And in no means does this mean, once we adopt this, that in future we couldn't amend it as well, so, but we would have to bring it back to council when that happens, but I mean, I was kinda on the same fence as Jermaine, is like, I mean, if we had other members that wanted to join the commission, I mean, they could be emailing us or coming to the meetings or
Volunteering.
providing their input, yeah, volunteering at our community service day. I mean, but as of right now, I mean, me personally, I haven't had anybody that's asked about that, so,
I have.
and I know you have, but,
And they're passionate about being on it too. And with any commission or board, there's always a vacant seat, and there's always somebody that has to catch up. And but
mhm.
to me, it's nothing but a positive to have more people.
But it would be positive if they came to a meeting and like volunteered,
Mhm.
so.
But they still don't have a vote.
No,
But
but I
that's-
think a lot of, I mean, we're commission members, we're gonna take a lot of what the public says and kinda try to make it work, you know, for what, if they have input or an idea or whatnot, we're gonna discuss it at these meetings, and, it's not like the community doesn't have a say in what we're doing, cause we wanna do what's best for the community.
I also feel when one person is gone, we're a very small group. But
I would agree, and there's definitely some consequences if we have a lot of unexcused absences, and especially consecutive ones, but for the most part, everybody's letting somebody know on the commission or chief when they're not gonna be here, so I don't think we have a problem with that right now. But I agree, when one person's missing or two people is missing, it is a smaller meeting for sure.
and typically every meeting, there's somebody missing, so. Okay,
Okay. So we had a motion from Jermaine to approve, and then
A second.
Mary seconded. Okay, we can vote on that.
Lucas Richardson.
Yes.
Jermaine Sullivan.
Yes.
Kelly Greavy.
yes.
Mary Kay Wilcox.
Yes.
Okay. Next item is update on the mural program. We tabled this until this meeting because you were gone on the last one, if you wanted to discuss anything on that.
Well, I think we could definitely move on, but we should probably take a small project, maybe like the wall that you were working with or so. We still have Morton's on the table. I have to get back with them. The only concern I have with that is that we're going to have to come up with some money through a grant or something to help them out. I know that they probably would, do some of the financing. So either I can have another discussion with them, or we table that for a period of time until we do something small and we know exactly what we're doing, is kind of what I feel.
Mhm.
And then we could still use, Grand Rapids' information, tweak it if we need to, or whatever. But that's kind of my thought. Or we could look at some other places in the community that were small, just to get started.
So, the last meeting when we talked about the Morton Salt murals,
Correct.
has that changed to where, like, they were gonna put a mural on public property? Or
It's
was
going
it?
to be on their own property.
Okay, so I think what we've discussed on that was we wouldn't have any say in what they would be able to do.
Well, they already have a concept. When we talked with them, they went back, gentleman went back to his group, and they would like to have the series of the Morton Salt gals, with the
Mhm.
umbrella and stuff. I mean, they're very cute. He sent us a ton of information on it. We just didn't pursue it because John was no longer here, and we had to look at all the documentation that we received, and so we just never moved forward. But I'm happy to do something. I just think we need to start smaller before we work on something so large, because that's gonna be a big commitment.
Right, so what would be our, just for education purposes for me, what would be our involvement
We
in
would be,
Morton Salts?
we would be in charge, working with his core group.
To put a mural on Morton Salt's property?
Correct. So we would have to get, the city's approval. I don't think they can just do what they want,
Hmm.
according to some of the documentation.
Like,
But
It has to be
Ordinance
approved,
is-
it has to be approved by someone. Did you read those documents?
I did.
Okay.
but that's not anything adopted by City of Manistee, though.
No, but we would want to have something adopted, because if we didn't, that's the whole concept. Because if we didn't adopt some kind of rules or bylaws or something. Then, if Morton's went with something and somebody else wanted to do something else and it's totally off the wall, like, you know what I mean, like something that's not appropriate, then we could be in trouble. That's why we needed to focus on those rules to see if we wanted to move forward with them and then approve. We have to have like a committee to approve whoever wants to put something on.
I would offer a comment that before, I think it's a great perspective, as far as starting small and to determine what projects we want to get involved in. Do we want to get involved in private property murals or only property that's public property? Maybe that's the first question this commission wants to answer. It might help guide further projects or questions. At least that's what I'm hearing.
I guess my question right now is what's preventing anybody from putting a mural, like Mary's saying, on your private property? Is there any law that police can enforce? Like, I mean,
Not many, not many.
so if we were to adopt a program like that, it would give us something to enforce.
I think there would be challenges in regulating what people put on their private property.
Which is my point. I think that the only way we can, have a program like this is if it's in the public right away, right?
What I would do is I would look at other communities and see what programs they have and see what ordinances they have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. I mean, Grand Rapids has a
Yeah.
great program all set up, and all the documents are there. They told us we can use them. They're kind of a bullet, just blank. And I think that's something we should adopt if we like it. And I don't know if somebody has to look at and review it, but
Well,
everything
ultimately,
is right there.
if it comes to an ordinance, I would defer to our city attorney to review it, to see the legality of it and the constitutionality of it. To see if the city can regulate murals by private citizens on private property, and does that differ than like the business district on the side of a building? So I would like to look at those programs and see what other communities have done ordinance-wise, and
Still have
and
it
it's
before.
important.
You want me to forward it?
So I think I have better understanding on what it is now. So I'll forward it to the group, and then also Chief can work with the city attorney on that and
Okay.
get their perspective on it as well. And
That's perfect.
I think that's where we can probably
Okay.
just move
And
this.
it tells everything in there. There's a lot of very good information.
So they want to put a mural on there anyway. They just want our input?
We approached them.
Okay.
We approached them along with some other people, and they were very much interested, but we didn't proceed any further because then John was gone. He gave us all the documentation, and like I said, Grand Rapids said we can definitely use it, and we just never went any further. So I did not get that yet. I figure we need to get ourselves put,
Well, they have more money than we do, so what if we traded services with them? Like they do the mural, and then we clean up like the sidewalks, the fencing area, because we don't have money for a
No, that's not
mural.
a bad idea.
yeah.
Those sidewalks right there are pretty bad.
Like that could be one of our, clean up all of edge it, clean it, make it nice, and they paint a mural. I mean,
Yeah, so I think what we can do is look over these documents. If we get approved for it, we could just meet with them and then, make a suggestion.
Okay. And it wouldn't be us, like, trying to assist them with funding for their mural or anything. It's just kind of getting a program established and then kind of,
Well,
Help.
again, when John was here, we were going to look at grants and stuff, because he had that avenue available, and we probably could do that. So it just depends on how much we want to do.
okay.
So I think we need to get those approved first, and then we can make that decision.
Yeah, so I'll forward those documents like you said, and then we'll kind of just keep working on that, similar to how we just worked on the bylaws and then. Just a second here. Anything else on the murals?
I don't think so. I think we just need to get that, and then we'll move to the next step.
Okay.
And if you want to send over anything, and if you have, forgive me, but resend it as far as ordinance-wise, I can
That's
confer with
that's
the
what those documents.
Yeah.
the city attorney, and we can take a look at those and see, so.
All right, next item is ideas for the community survey that, that I was working on. So I sent, and you have a copy today of the questions that I thought of. And so these would be going on like an online survey, and we would send a link out to, I don't know how we're gonna send it out yet, but then a community member would be able to go on here and fill it out and provide us feedback. So this is just a draft, and this is just my first thoughts, and we can discuss whatever you guys think. I think it's too much.
Look at me. To be honest, if I got this, I wouldn't get past number 3. Like it's too much. Like I would never fill this out. Thank you for taking the time to do it, but I wouldn't fill this out.
Okay. So what?
Just to be
here's
honest.
for comments then. So what do you guys think? Like what, you want to make it like a 4 or 5 question thing, or?
Yeah, you can even do like a, so you can do like a Facebook survey and just ask a couple of questions, and it can be like multiple choice.
Something simple.
And you can get information from that too.
What is the purpose for the survey questions?
I think it was multiple purposes.
Yeah.
Everybody had input on this, so I was trying to
Yeah.
incorporate all of it. So it sounds like we need to either break it into multiple ones, or
I think you're trying
Focus a
to
little
determine what city residents view as a problem with blight in their community. Have them prioritize for you what they see in the community, correct, based on your questions? Is that-
That's like the only question I would ask. Like I wouldn't even do a survey, like put that on Facebook and be like, hey.
But if
What is
if we think about this logically, we have city ordinances, and if people are not abiding by them, that's the problem.
Right, but if you get answers that you're like, oh, well, there's an ordinance for this, then we can focus on putting that ordinance out so they can read the ordinance and be like, hey, okay, that answers my question.
So I did send a letter to everybody, but I didn't hear back from a soul
I responded.
right before the meeting.
You didn't send one to me. What
Yeah,
was it?
I did, I sent it to everybody. It was right after the last meeting.
I don't
So-
remember that far back. I'm sorry. I probably did read it though.
And so my thought was to put it out in the paper and on social media for the community of Manistee to see that we mean business, that we're doing this, and that, you know, if they have any issues, here's the person and the number to call. What did you think of that then, if you were the only one that read it?
I mean, I thought that it was, I mean, I did try to incorporate some of what you had in this, but same thing to her comment about what I did here was, I thought it was a lot. There's a lot in that, and that's kind of, what I took out of that was I tried to focus it into a couple pointed questions.
Do you
that was
think if
some
you
of it.
took a full-page ad out in the newspaper, which we could negotiate, don't you think that if that was in front of somebody, that they would take the time to read at least some of it? No?
I think they would, but I think there's parts of it where, I mean, some of this is public already, so, I mean, we have been in the paper, this commission has been in the paper, so.
My only input from experience is putting stuff in the paper is understand that if you're trying to put something out to meet different generations, that the newspaper only reaches a certain demographic.
Right, and then social media as well.
So just understand that wraparound, whatever tool you have, survey, just understand that you should have a wraparound way to deploy it, meaning paper as well as social media. And then is social media just Facebook? Because I don't think people under a certain age read Facebook anymore, so that kind of thing. But there could be, once you develop what tool you want and what measurables you're looking at to measure, then you could have a strategy as far as how you deploy it to the public, and that could be the newspaper as well as this, that, and the other thing. But,
Yeah.
and you know, with the newspaper, there's a cost associated with, you have to figure out how many words you want, and then how long do we want to run the ad for? And I can find that information out if we decide to go that direction, but I guess my advice is, again, just make sure we have a multiple approach if we're going to deploy anything out to the public.
Because you wanted to put in the ordinance, right? In the
Yeah.
paper? Okay.
Yeah.
Which one?
Whatever applies to the beautification and the maintenance of your home. which would be noxious weeds, it would be the anti-blight, it would be.
Yeah, I don't know how you can fit all that in the paper. It's quite a bit. There is rubbish, there is blight, there is noxious weeds.
Or
In
you
some
could
ca-
say C.
You could just have
ordinance.
yeah, you could do that, yep. Or chapter this, located here, there's sidewalk maintenance stuff, so I think, yeah, if you wanna use a newspaper, that could be a strategy, but just know that you couldn't publish the ordinance, because some of these ordinances are 3 or 4 pages long. So I have to-
I mean, there is an obligation, when you're living in the city of Manistee, there is an obligation to your neighbors and the community at large. Is everybody aware of that, you know? I mean, yes, it's common sense, but I don't know, I just feel like it needs to be in front of people.
Yeah, it's good as a refresher too, right? Because you might know that there is an ordinance, but you don't know what's in the ordinance.
Yeah, the report was on here.
And I think it's gonna get to the same people that kind of already know, not the people that need to know. I mean,
It's a good
But-
point too.
But maybe,
there's people that still don't know there's a city council meeting every Tuesday at 7. Like,
right,
they
but
just
maybe
don't.
the influence, even though the people that know, they would be more influential to the people that don't know. That they now see that this is what Manistee wants to do, and we're doing it.
So what do you want? Just a couple questions on social media also? Should we just put something out there?
I mean, I think if we want to be just extracting information, I think to all of your points, maybe this is too much, and maybe we just ask them, what do you think the
Point blank.
yeah, what do you think the biggest blight issue in city of Manistee is? And just start from that.
Maybe we
and then-
just, every time social media comes, we ask a different question, maybe.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have to, just one question is good enough, maybe.
Yeah, because the feedback should help
Should
us
help.
gear some more
Well,
questions.
maybe if we do that and figure out like what most of the answers are, like what category most of the answers fall under, then put something in the paper and say, hey, based on your comments from this survey question, this is what it is, this is the section of the ordinance that you need to pay attention to, something like that.
Right.
I'd be happy with that. How about you?
Cause then they'll see like exactly, most of the people, what the problem is, and then we can just put that section of the ordinance and be like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And just so the commission's aware, every spring, the police department puts out all these ordinances. And Ariel Breen comes in as a piece, and usually I put them out March or April as the snow starts to thaw. Here's blight, here's your blight ordinances. So there is that too as well. I certainly plan to do it again this spring, so.
And
Where
that's,
does that get put out?
yeah, where is it put out?
She puts it somewhere, she has a piece on the Advocate, in the News Advocate, and so mostly online, I think. I think either last year or before, I give her the actual ordinance, and I think I give her the ordinance for blight, rubbish. I don't know if I do abandoned junk vehicles or not, but I will continue to do that as well. And, maybe by that time, March, April, the commission wants to give me specific direction on which ordinance you'd like to see specifically, I could do that, or I could just post all of them that apply to blight, so.
Okay, let's think about one question. Right now, what do you think the question should be? And then I can go ahead, Jen.
Well, I was just gonna suggest, the city puts out that little paper every now and then with your taxes or with water bills, and why don't we include one right in there with, it goes to all the citizens in town?
And have like
Your questionnaire, and
back to
do the ordinance and do the questions after that. That goes to all the citizens.
I think that happens in July, right?
Twice a year, I believe. I believe it's twice a year. Yeah,
I mean, don't you
Yeah.
think, I mean,
You know,
yeah,
if they
right.
read.
Well, I think
you know.
social media is the best avenue for sure, but I mean, to reach all demographics, maybe it's not a bad idea.
If you make it as easy as possible to complete and return the
Right.
survey, the more effort they have to make, I think statistically, the less people will fill it out. That would reach the most amount of eyes probably, but if they had to physically return something, that might impact negatively what you're looking for as far as getting the numbers back.
I'll be honest, I don't even read that.
Well, I think if you,
I know.
if you have to click a button, I think it's really easy. Here, you know, click a button, type, I think that's an easy way to submit it, so.
Maybe sometimes, but
Well, if you don't read it, why do you think
Yeah.
people are gonna read a whole big ordinance in the newspaper? I
I
mean,
read the newspaper.
I don't read the newspaper.
read
I
the
can't even tell you the last time I read the newspaper. I don't.
Well, we could
I
look-
think that question, I think that question's
When you come to pay your tax.
a good
bill,
question to start with.
Turn in the survey too.
So what-
I don't know, we could switch it around, like every 3 weeks, do a different question.
Doing it
Okay.
based on what our answers are.
Now, so you said there's a survey thing on Facebook, but would this be just a post and then we read the comments, or?
You can do like a Facebook survey, and then they just click on it. I don't,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not that tech savvy, so I don't know exactly what it, but I've seen them.
We just can't make it too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, short and sweet is what they.
What about number 5? That's what I circled. How do you think the NRBC should help address the blight issues of the city of Manistee?
Oh, I thought that was a different question.
I don't know, shouldn't we know that answer?
Are these surveys, is there a maximum character? Are we looking for multiple choice? Because that's a subjective answer that you will get, you'll get words instead of a B, C, or D. Is that, do you see what I'm saying? Do we know if our survey platform allows for word answers or just allow for a multiple choice answer?
Sure, we could customize it to do either.
Okay.
What about number 3? What do you think the most common form of blight in the city of Manistee is?
Okay, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate. What are we trying to get out of that question? Just,
I have no idea. Those are your questions.
So I just put a question out on Manistee Proud and I got a lot of feedback from it. Good feedback. So I think if we just put a question out there, I think, open-ended question, we will get some form of feedback. But then what are we gonna do with those answers?
Well, then we can figure out where we need to focus our efforts on
Right.
more than just we're up in the air and
so maybe it's where do you think, well, no.
How about,
Maybe get some
are you aware that there is a city ordinance?
Or maybe just the one that, are you aware that there's a city ordinance for blight, specifically say blight? I don't know.
But I can tell you that the majority of people who have blighted properties have been talked to by a police officer by now, so
I know, that's what I think too.
and, just my opinion, but, when you talk about number 3, what do you think the most common form of blight is? That's, you're asking for public perception. The answer to that question will give you what the public perception is, so if that's what you're looking for, then that's the question to go with. But as far as public education, we've done quite a bit. Now, again, you could never do too much, but if you have blighted property, junk vehicle, you've more than likely been talked to by a police officer within the last year.
well, what if we started with number 3 and then 3 weeks later we figure out what the common, like if it's junk or if it's structures, and
Would you
then
please, because I
3 weeks after that we do the ordinance saying, hey, are you aware that there's an ordinance for,
To kind of focus what the perception is of the most blight?
yes.
I would recommend that you change the word structures to buildings or houses. Structures might throw people for a loop.
Yeah, and then, so if like the consensus is the most people clicked on was vehicles, then we put in, right after that for like a week or so, the ordinance for vehicles in the city, like what the ordinance says, what you should be doing, and then a week after that, do another question, and what the consensus is, do it like that. So we're still relevant, we're still putting out content, and it's getting out there. I mean, we could even, if you wanted to, do a little, like, say number 3, we put an ad in, a little thing in the paper that says, based on our survey, most people thought vehicles were an issue in the city. Here's the ordinance, and have that little section in the paper and do it like that. So then we're constantly putting out content, and then people are aware that we're actually doing something than do a question and then we don't ever do a question again or
Yeah.
follow up with it.
So then the goal of that would be a public perception of, oh, the police department and the city of Manistee is actually enforcing this
Yes.
by ordinance.
But like,
So I was going at this as two goals, that goal and then also trying to see if there was something that maybe we weren't seeing that we could help with too.
Yeah, exactly. That's that, if that number 3, if it's ton of vehicles, then we can work on that and figure out how to incorporate that. Or if it's structures, put in, here's the blight ordinance for
And then we
buildings.
can focus our time on some sort of home repair program or
Yes.
something like that.
And then you can put an ad saying, hey, are you aware that there's these programs for blighted buildings and such? And depending on the consensus, put that ad in the paper.
the people that you said that the law, your officers have already paid them a visit, are they gonna care about these programs that we have? Is there a much deeper issue going on here than what we're really talking about?
I don't know if it's a matter of if will they, it's a matter of can they. A lot of times our officers see people who economically can't
Right.
remedy this thing. So we see that all the time actually. And some of these complaints that we field from the public and from city staff, the problem is they can't financially afford to remedy the issues. And so that's why this group is so important, to give them some options. Now, I think it's a different story. If someone, let's just say for example, can't afford to side their house, but they were given multiple financial options, they chose not to take advantage of those options, maybe that's a different situation, I don't know, but, and there's some people that just won't do it.
Yeah.
There's some people who think that the city, the government should not be able to tell them what they should do with their property. They should be able to keep trash in their backyard because it's their property. And again, I'm
That's
just
where we need
citing
to
examples
educate.
that we've found during enforcement.
But that's where we need to educate, what.
Sure.
But what are we doing to help them help themselves? I mean, are we doing anything about that? Part of
You
the.
can only help people so much.
Well, true, but what are we doing in that respect? I mean, we can offer them all the programs they want, but is that really helping them?
But is that, I don't think that's part of our,
Well, I know, but I think there is a much deeper issue than what we're even.
But we're not social workers. We
No,
can't.
I know that, but that's one of the resources, is what I was talking about way in the beginning of all of this, is that should be one of our resources, is to have somebody at the ready to be able to help them help themselves. Just like we have these financial programs.
I mean, the police officers, they don't just go there and say, you got blight, here's a ticket. They definitely put the work in to say,
Well, I understand that,
hey,
but that's
this
not
is,
their job.
we're trying to help you, these are the steps, okay, we're gonna, we'll be lenient with that, or no, you need to get that done, they're working with the homeowners to
Right,
do that.
right, I totally get that, but it's not their job to sit with them and to try to help them move forward in life, you know what I'm saying?
Who are you suggesting? Like,
Well, I don't know, that's why I'm asking. I don't know, yes, social workers, but what organization would that be?
I have no idea. I mean, is that something that's our responsibility to do? I mean, I think we just clean up and then,
And then it happens again.
it could definitely happen again, But I'm not so sure that we could go and talk with them and say, you need to,
No, I don't think we should.
No, I mean, what do we do, have a resource list is what you're saying
Yes,
maybe? And
yes.
then hand it to
Correct.
them?
Yeah,
Maybe
just
we
like
could do something
financing.
like that, I don't know.
can we put on that ClickFix app? Is there a way to put on there if they needed help, like through RD and Mishna, if they needed help with their house, they could click on that and we could get them the information? I don't really know how that app works. Do you?
I don't, let me ask. It would be a request information, request resource button. I think it would work just like you'd have X amount of days to get back with a person. Yeah, let me inquire into that with the city manager. This is his project and circle back with an answer. I don't see why, but I'm not intimately familiar with the capabilities of the app. But
Well, I know there is a spot on that app that says see city council minutes or agendas or all that stuff, so.
Well, there, if you click on the app, I have the app on my phone. If you click on the app, it takes you right to the city page. But you're talking about specific requests for resources, a document that says, has whatever this group identifies as potential resources. Do I understand that correctly? There might be a path. Let me find out.
You mean like financial and then maybe community?
Yes, so I don't know if we
something
could put
else.
on like a section for ourselves for this committee, and then it has like a drop box underneath there, like if you need help with if you're a homeowner and you need help, you know, with a roof issue or siding issue or something like that. Like 5 Cap has where they do the weather insulation, yes. That Mary Kay's got the MISHDA programs where, you know, if they qualify, they could get money to fix up their house, stuff like that.
Yeah, do you think it would be easier just to put, talking about the paper, social media, if you need a resource, contact one of these 5 people and the commissioners, their information?
Yes.
That might be easier than going to an app, to a third-party app, and then having the police get that information to the person. If you advertise it that way, it puts them in touch directly with you.
Yes.
That might be a good
Yeah,
idea.
so right now that app has a contact your council member.
Yeah.
There could be a contact your commission.
I mean, that's one way to help, I mean,
Yeah, I know we've talked about that before too, is trying to make some sort of program or assistance request or something like that we could put
okay.
into that app. I think that's a good idea. I mean, it sounds like everybody else.
I think we need to actually do that because
Okay,
we keep talking about stuff and not doing it.
we're doing stuff.
I'll follow up with the city manager on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with the city
You'll take
manager on
care
that
of it.
question specifically.
Well, let's think of so we want to
Add resources.
add resources and add,
I think we should figure out, well, no, we're gonna just add names then of the commission.
yeah, so we'll talk, so Chief and I can talk to the city manager about what would best work with the app and then,
Correct, but I think that, you know, if somebody was to call me, we should have a list of, okay, these are the resources, because if somebody calls me, I'm gonna have to scramble trying to figure out
Right.
what they need to do. So we should already have
I'll
a
tell Nicole Jermaine.
There we go.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Should we have
Before
a
you,
list like,
before you obligate yourself to provide resources, you probably should identify what those resources are.
that's what I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I don't want somebody to call
Yes.
me and then I don't know where to direct them. You
Right.
know, I mean, can we just direct them to community mental health without, you know, contacting them first and saying, hey, if we have somebody, you know what I mean?
so what should I put on or what are you suggesting that we put on for the resources?
Well, first we should get our list of people resources that we have, and then,
So I think we should make that list.
Yeah.
So like we have community mental health. So I don't know if we have to give them a call and say, hey, if we have someone, can we just give them a, you know, I don't know if that has to go through your doctor. I mean, I don't, you know.
Mhm.
You know, we can do financial, we could do community mental health. What else are you thinking? I mean, there's, I don't know,
I don't know either.
cleaning person? You know? I have no idea.
Habitat.
You might put a list of contractors on there that, I mean, we had a house in the city where the lady didn't replace her siding for decades, and she just simply didn't know who to contact or how to get that project going. And our officer actually reached out to these companies for her, which I don't want them doing, but they went above and beyond to do that. So you might have a list of contractors that this commission approves or agrees upon. Maybe it's something that simple. So what it sounds like is this group is forming as a project of putting together a list of resources, and the first step is identifying categories of resources. I heard mental health, financial, just trying to identify what categories there are, then find resources under those categories. And once you have a list set, now we can distribute to the public the mechanism for getting a hold of you and referring you to this list. Is that what the commission is discussing?
Well, we could even put like Manistee Senior Center, because some people, even though there's blight, you know, they need some resources to be out, to get out in the community, or they need resources of housekeeping maybe, and they have that.
Okay. So I guess our action items from this one, Chief and I will talk to the city manager, see what we can put on the app. And then if you would like to put together a list,
Put together and
Yeah.
email you, okay.
and then I think that's a good idea, even contractors and,
Were we not getting a list of contractors in the very beginning of all of this? I thought we had talked about that.
I don't think so. And then, in the next meeting, maybe we can have that list, and then if any of us think of other things that we can add.
I'll email it to everybody and then you can add to it.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and then the other action item would be to send, question number 3, changing structures to buildings, starting with that on social media.
Right.
Is that right? Okay. Then I can deal with that as well. Next item was annual city council update that I gave last council meeting. There's not really anything I had specifically to discuss other than I just want everybody to know that I did report on what our commission's goals were from one of our meetings there. And that's on one of the slides here, so just keep in mind that is what we reported as our goals of this year, so. And I put what we did in 2022, so.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Yep, you did.
Okay, new business, one item I was thinking about, so the blight tour, so last year, and this was kind of it was a new commission, so we organized that tour to go around the city to see where maybe blight was and some beautification projects, and I think since we have budget in this fiscal year, it might be worth doing that again, or making that an annual spring thing to see if there's any new blight or anything new. Opinions, discussion?
I would like to go again.
No?
I see it all the time, so I mean,
Yeah, real estate.
I'll get on a bus with you guys, I guess.
It's just a discussion, and we don't have to.
No, we should.
I think we should. I think we should
Should.
see exactly where it is.
Okay. Chief D.
When would you like that? What month?
April?
April, so
Sounds good.
Beginning or end of April.
whenever you can
When
get
there's no
it.
snow.
It'll probably be towards the end of April.
Probably the end, yeah. So do we have to get a price for that and then bring it to the
They
meeting?
didn't charge us last time.
Oh, they did it? Oh,
I'm gonna be,
What I'll do is I'll coordinate that and shoot out dates, and we'll get the commission to confirm a date, and then we'll go from there.
I'm gonna be gone the 22nd to the 30th.
Not the 22nd.
Right.
Sorry. Going to New Orleans.
So what I'll do is probably towards the end of this month, I'll send out an email saying, well, we'll figure it out. What was the dates? You're not gonna be here?
22nd to
Second
the
to the
30th.
30th.
Yeah, we could do the beginning of May when she's back.
Sam?
Yeah, either
Could do
April.
the beginning of May.
Okay. We'll see what we land on dates wise. This is pretty flexible here, it sounds like.
I like things that have no financial impact.
Well, the last one was free. I'll inquire this one, so.
I mean, really, everybody's house looks bad in April.
Well, I think we'll be able to tell some of them.
I think it was an eye-opener last time for some of us to say, because we notice particular ones that we live by, and we focus on that, but when we get a whole picture of the city, we kind of, I think, understood a little differently, or at least some of us did. Okay. Next item is the community service day. So we keep talking about what we're gonna do. I don't know if we can still decide what we want to do because we don't know where the blight is that we can assist with right now because it's not blight enforcement season, right?
Well, no, we're still enforcing blight.
Well, how about if
This
we
year we're going
focus
year round. What's that?
on something like the other portion of the beautification portion? I was doing some looking around in different neighborhoods, and what about if we just picked a neighborhood, somewhere, And we look to see exactly what that neighborhood needs and get those neighbors involved somehow and look at even the signage on their house. Do they have house numbers? Can they be visible? I know that they're supposed to be, but not everybody has that, which is something to think about while we're looking at them. We could do some kind of an initiative.
I agree with her. I actually wrote down a couple of places, Casman School, like all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
That would be a good, I mean,
Good.
their sign, everything, the bushes, the trees, the sidewalk, everything. I wrote down the corner where Painted Lady is, but then I was looking at it and it's not really, there's more issues there than just the sidewalk, so. And then the corner of First and McKee, there's there's 5 buildings on that corner that all need something. And then the overgrowth on one of them, and so I would actually really like to do Casman though.
What about the boat launch on, what is it, 9th Street?
It's
Is
park,
that
city park, yeah.
Okay, so we can't do that. So with the Casman, we could actually get like the youth involved. Have that on my list.
Okay, so I mean, this is a lot more ideas than I had in my head, so I think we can let's just pick a date and then we'll just kind of gear into doing one of these projects, or, doing as much as we can. I mean, and then we've talked about before having more than just one community service day, so.
Exactly.
So do we want to make this, maybe like an after-school thing if it's around Casman? I mean, that could work. We'd have to do it before school ends, right? So sometime in May.
Yeah.
And get the kids involved and see
Yeah.
what we need.
Does anybody have any contacts with Casman Academy? I don't.
I do, yes.
That'd be really good.
So we're really talking about that entire city block when you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we want to pick a date, just a tentative one, so if Jermaine calls, she can kind of give a tentative and we all have it in our schedule because.
The only day I cannot do is May 12th.
And
I have waited 18 years for my son to graduate, so that's the only-
oh, that's a good point too. That's going to
yeah.
be graduation month, right?
Yeah.
May is.
But we could do like
An evening,
the
or if-
5th or something like that, like the
Yeah.
1st part of May.
Right.
Do we want to do what day of the week would we? Not Tuesdays, right?
Tuesdays I can't do. How about a Thursday, because Friday, I'm not so sure everybody's gonna want Friday.
4th.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think here. I think we have daylight until at least 8-ish, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think we have pretty good daylight there.
So like 3 o'clock till like 7 o'clock or
Mhm.
something on the 4th.
Yep. Perfect.
May 4th.
And then we'll get a list of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
I'll have to go drive.
And we're just talking Casman School, we're not talking any houses or anything?
No, just, I mean, it takes up that
Yeah.
whole block, so.
Yeah, and all the we're talking about in the right of way, right?
Yeah.
That stuff. Okay.
Yeah, that's plenty of work there to be done.
Yeah.
Is there a playground still? Yeah.
So maybe you need to get some wood chips or whatever it needs,
Yeah.
Okay.
And then maybe on our tour we might identify more things, and then maybe address some of those other items that you both suggested. Maybe we should keep a list rather than bringing this to meetings and whatnot. List of ideas for some of those beautification.
I think so.
You know, what would be great is if this commission gets to a point where you could have the public request beautification projects and come tell you what they would like to beautify. Maybe last year in this
That
May
was what we
4th,
wanted to put on the C-Click Fix was
Yeah.
that exact item.
just let the public say, hey, come to our neighborhood in RBC, we'd like you to do, I don't know, this sidewalk, this field, whatever it might be, plant some flowers here, based off of what they saw last year. That would be a great position for this commission to get to, where people are requesting services.
You and I can talk to
Sure.
Bill about that as well. I think that's where we need to head as well.
And then this winter, we continue to beef up our volunteer lists and groups and just keep communicating with those folks, whatever they might be, whether it be high school kids or whomever, Manistee Proud, whatever groups, just kind of keep a line on them and, yeah.
Just to my last thought about sending or creating a list for that, if you could both send me those lists that you were just reading off of, and then I can get with Mary and we can just add it to the volunteer list, have it in like a different tab or something. Just so we don't forget about them. So this is a kind of a side item here to the community service day, but we've talked about a dumpster, community dumpster. This discussion for just what do we want to do with that, I guess.
I think that's gonna be a problem, and people are gonna be cleaning out their basements and dumping furniture and.
So more,
So we have to
more
figure out
hassle.
how to- Well, we just have to figure out how,
Maybe if we did like a neighborhood, then we just get one for that neighborhood, or for, you know what I mean, or doing a person's,
yeah, but we need to figure out,
yeah,
What that
something in
was.
detail.
so they're cleaning up the yards and sidewalks and stuff and not cleaning out their basements and their garages. That's,
So would it be advantageous to do like we were doing for the community service day and pick a neighborhood and then, you know, work with the police department with where the best location would be?
we could put a dumpster right by Casman because there's a ton of blighted houses and be like, hey.
Well, you
this
can't, you're
is-
not gonna be able to regulate who puts trash in that dumpster. You could put a dumpster wherever you want, but trying to determine if someone drops off a couch and checking their license to see, do you live in, I think it's unrealistic, so I think you need to, if you go forward, you need to understand that if you have a dumpster, you're really not gonna be regulating who puts in the dumpster, realistically. Just, those are the expectations moving forward. If this group's okay with those expectations, and that's fine, but just,
Unless
We're
we
not-
did a dumpster just for like the day while we're working there, and they, you know.
And
and that-
somebody's responsibility
Monitor.
was to monitor it?
Yeah, just knowing it's just that particular area. you know. I mean, it'd still probably be hard, but at least, you know, it's gonna be for that particular neighborhood only.
But what are you gonna say if somebody comes home?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, hey, take your couch back, you can't dump
Exactly.
it here.
I don't know.
I mean, it is kind of funny, but would that be a problem? I mean,
Well, yeah, if it's coming from a non-blighted house out of somebody's basement, and they're just using the dumpster because they don't feel like.
no, I'm saying, would it be a problem for us to say no?
Oh,
Go
not for
away.
me.
Right.
Yeah, I think we would just say, no, I'm sorry, this is just for this particular.
Like, I know I agree, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if we tell them this is for, you know, to reduce blight and, sorry, we don't want your couch.
What if we just had one by Casman in the houses that we know that are blighted, send them an invitation to be like, hey, if you have outdoor items that you wanna throw in this dumpster, you're more than welcome to do that.
That's a
So-
good idea.
Or if we don't even need that, I mean, if the police officers that are working in that area, when they go to talk to them about their blight, I mean, they could just say, hey, you know, we know this has been a struggle for you to get rid of this blighted junk, but we're gonna provide you a dumpster on this day. And is that something police department, the officers that are in that area that can tell them, or
sure,
would it be better for us to put a notice out to them,
why don't we do both?
or both?
Yeah, I think a
Yeah.
notice would be great.
Okay.
Just managing expectations, you're still gonna have a significant population that says that's not junk.
And,
So not
and
far
where
away.
is, I mean, like, how far do we go? You know, I mean, is it just across the street, or, you know, Jermaine, do you know?
Well, there's both sides. I think it's Ramsdale and Kosciuszko, and then,
So we do the whole thing, the whole block?
well, it's
around
like
it?
a three,
Three blocks.
just, yeah,
Okay,
3 streets.
so we have to find out who all lives there and.
We also need to get costs of the dumpster, how long we can have it, make sure this group can afford it, approve the funds to be expended for it, so.
The last time I talked to them, they said that they would be willing to either give us a discount or even donate it.
Okay.
You think you could work with chief, on that, Jermaine?
Yep.
Then we could try to figure out the capacity, if we need 1, 2, 3 dumpsters or whatever. Also find out what Republic can donate or
Okay.
what the cost would be, and then,
Maybe that notice.
from there we can get the list for the notice.
Or maybe that notice just is a blank, generic notice and it's just sent to those particular addresses. Or just dropped off.
Yeah. Kelly, do you wanna work on a notice, draft notice? Delegation. Great, I'm glad that we're moving forward to something on that, that's good. Any more discussion on community service stuff?
No.
I think so.
All right, this time we invited City Attorney George Saylor and Kevin Kriebel, Building Inspector, to kind of just talk about, from our last meeting, some of our questions that we had with the court process and blight enforcement and whatnot, so.
So let me talk a little bit, and then you guys can ask me whatever questions you have about our conversation. And so when talking to Lucas, I understood that that's what I was here to talk about, is what is blight in the city and how do we enforce these city ordinances. I've got some information for you guys. I did a little memo on the blight ordinance and just some background information, not so much for our discussion today, but just maybe for you guys to take with you. So,
Thank you, sir.
I think you're pretty well versed in that.
I'll take one. I'll take one. Lucas, the file, yeah.
So, but before we get started, let's talk a little Open Meetings Act. As I was listening to your discussions today, a lot of the commissions and committees and boards, I've given little refresher information on occasion regarding the Open Meetings Act. And by council policy, all commissions and boards are subject to the Open Meetings Act. So it's a transparency law, and it means that when you guys are going to talk about blight in your private lives with each other, I mean, that's just expected. But what you can't do is discuss something that's going to come before you for a vote. So for instance, if there's a discussion about expanding from 5 to 7 members, that's not a discussion you have in private. That's a discussion at an open meeting. So anything that ultimately this commission would deliberate on and maybe vote upon, that's something that really needs to be discussed here. Your tour, great thing, you should do it, but you don't want to be on the tour bus talking about matters that you're going to decide at a meeting, okay? So, having someone say, well, here's this particular issue or this issue, I think that's all perfectly fine. Just, you ought to kind of watch, what you're discussing and avoid discussing things that may come up at a meeting and that you're going to vote on. Just a FYI, I guess, sort of thing. So blight in the city is principally managed by Chapter 650, which is the City of Manistee Anti-Blight Ordinance. If you look at the first part of Section 650, it includes definitions of what is blight. I mean, that's where we start at. We have definitions for blighted structures. We have definitions for building materials, junk. All of those definition sections then come up later in the ordinance, where we have a large section of what is prohibited in the city. Well, it's prohibited for a property owner or occupant of a home to have a blighted structure. So then you go back to where we define blighted structure and what does that constitute. It's prohibited to have the open storage of junk. It's prohibited to have a vacant property that is not properly secured. All of these things, and building materials, you can't have building materials. I think it's a 60-day period of time that you can store building materials outside, but beyond that, that can constitute blight as well. So all of those things can constitute blight. Well, if it is prohibited and it's a violation of the ordinance, what's the next step that we take? And I guess first off, how do we get to identify properties that might be blighted? One thing that's somewhat new, and I think, Jermaine, I think you were kind of behind pushing this, is that our rental inspection ordinance was amended a while back to include that you cannot, as a landlord, get a certificate of compliance, which is what they need in order to rent their property, if they're in violation of any law, including local ordinance. One of the local ordinances is blight. So if Kevin's doing a rental inspection and he identifies junk in the yard or something that's the structure exterior-wise is blighted, that's something that then we can address because they're not going to get a certificate of compliance until that issue is corrected. So I mean, that's one source of finding out about blight and trying to enforce. We also act upon complaints. You know, if someone contacts, and you guys have been talking about a lot of that today. If there's junk in someone's yard and it's been there for a while, and they might call the police department. Chief Glass has the city sort of segregated out into what, 8 different sections or more than that?
I think it's 8, yeah.
8 sections with a particular officer in charge of each section. And so they'll send that officer out to identify or to see if it is blight, and then maybe act upon it. And then it's just those officers in their various districts just observing, driving, you know, they're working and they identify something that they believe is blight. And that's the other way that maybe we get to dealing with a particular property. We used to have a provision in the ordinance. So maybe step back for a second. So the officer identifies something that's blight. He's going to be in contact with the occupant, which might be the owner, might be a rental. Certainly if it's not the owner, going to be in contact with the owner and try to work with them. And our goal always in blight is compliance. We're not interested in penalizing someone or getting them fined or going to court. We want them to just comply with the ordinance. And so the officer will work with the property owner to a great extent to see if we can just achieve compliance. When we can't, the ordinance formally provided that we'd then send out a 7-day notice letter to the property owner requiring that they correct this issue within 7 days. I think we talked about that a couple of years ago, and the chief and I talked about that, and quite frankly, when we got to the point of sending out that letter, the officer had already been working with the property owner pretty extensively, and we thought it was sort of redundant to then send out a letter saying, hey, you're in violation of the ordinance, take care of the problem, because at that point there's already been enough conversation about it. So we eliminated that. We amended the ordinance, got rid of that requirement. So again, sort of streamline the process and make it a little bit simpler for the officers to enforce. So then if the officers work with the property owner and nothing's been accomplished, one step that we can take at that point is issuing what's called a notice of violation. This is not actually a civil infraction citation. It looks like it. It's more like a parking ticket that you'd see. And that notice of violation never goes to court. It's something that's handled here at City Hall. If a person's issued that ticket, then they have a period of time to come in, and they either could contest the ticket or they pay a fine. First offense is $250, it's pretty hefty. Second offense is $500. I don't know if we tried that a lot, but I think ultimately figured that really wasn't working.
We
for
did,
us.
no one was paying him.
Yeah, no one's paying it, and there's really no recourse at that point. We can turn the ticket over for collection, but again, we're not in this to make money. We just want people to clean up their properties. And so we're really not using that process. We're not required to. It's just an option under the ordinance. What we're using more frequently, though, is the civil infraction citation. So officers got to the point, can't get the property owner or the tenant to deal with the junk or the blighted structure or whatever it might be. And so they issue a civil infraction citation. And again, our goal is not to just issue that ticket, and it's like a speeding ticket. It's not to issue that ticket and have them go to the 85th District Court and pay a fine. We want to get compliance, and so what we need to do then is typically get before the judge. District court judges, for the most part, do not have what we call equitable powers. Equitable powers is the authority to order someone to do something or not to do something. That's generally speaking reserved to the circuit court. However, in cases of blight, in violation of an ordinance, that power is available to the district court judge. And so what the officer will do is he'll go out, he's gotten to the point where we're just not getting anything accomplished. He'll take some pictures, and when I'm dealing with blight, it's just exterior stuff. I mean, I don't really worry about the interior. It's mostly just exterior. Take some pictures of the blight, issue the ticket, and then the officer needs to either personally serve that property owner, or if he can't serve the property owner, they'll post the ticket on the property and then mail it, copy the ticket. On that ticket, there's a box that the officer can check that requests a formal hearing. So a formal hearing on a civil infraction citation is a hearing in front of the district court judge. Again, if we're trying to get the judge to order someone to do something, that's generally the route we're going to go. We have been testing the water a little bit with informal hearings in front of the magistrate. And I've talked with the magistrate about this with blight, and she's doing this also for other municipalities. She can order someone to correct something, it's just that it doesn't have any teeth, because she's not a judge, so she can't do much more than fine them and order them, but the order is more of a suggestion. If they don't comply, if the person doesn't comply, then we got to go to a formal hearing anyway in front of the district court judge. So tickets issued, formal hearings typically requested, pictures are taken, the ticket goes up to district court, and then a copy of all that along with a police report is generally sent to my office. The court will schedule a hearing then usually in a couple weeks. During COVID, we had huge issues during the beginning, especially of COVID. We had civil infraction cases that we didn't get hearings for 3, 4, 5 months. That's not the case now, and that really isn't the case normally. We usually get a hearing within a couple of weeks. And then at the hearing, I'll appear, the officer will be there, and if the property owner or whoever we've cited is there, we'll meet with them and we're going to talk to them and try to work something out. I mean, again, our goal is compliance, and we use the fines and costs that can be imposed a little bit as sort of a carrot and a stick. That will say, well, look, you've got these issues with your property. If you go in and you accept responsibility to the civil infraction, which is saying I'm guilty of it in the civil sense, we'll give you a period of time to correct this. And if you correct it, no fines and costs. I mean, we weren't going to get much money for that anyway. It's usually just a few $100, $200, $300. But that's sort of the carrot and the stick. The carrot being the fines and costs will go away, and the stick being they go away if you deal with this. And so that's worked on occasion for us. If it doesn't work, the judgment that we're going to ask for the judge includes fines and costs, includes a fixed period of time to deal with the blight, and then also includes a provision that says if they don't deal with it, that the city can deal with it, go on their property, deal with the blight, and then we can go back to court if necessary later to impose a lien against the property for the costs associated with having to deal with the blight. So we get into court in a couple weeks. The time period that the property owner has to correct the issue kind of just depends on what the issue is. If it's junk in the yard, it's going to be 7 or 10 days, maybe. I mean, it doesn't take long to deal with that. If it's a blighted structure and they've got siding issues or window issues or roof issues, they're going to need more time than 7 to 10 days to correct it, whether they can even do it then. Those generally are going to be more along the lines of 30 to 45 days. If they don't correct it, where does that place us? I'll tell you, I mean, we've had one of the issues, and Councilmember Grabowski knows this one pretty well. We had some issues downtown with a couple of properties that went on for years until it actually came to a civil infraction citation. And the problem was, yeah, we can get an order saying you have to do it, but if they don't, where does that leave us? Because we're not going to go do it. Maybe we can authorize the city to do it, but we're not going to go and put a window in somebody's store. And so that became a difficult situation with that property. And it's sort of the same thing with a lot of private properties. You know, I've had a couple that, you know, I mean, there's siding issues. The person, generally speaking, if it's really bad, it's because they can't afford to do anything with it. And so even if we get an order that says you have a certain amount of time to correct it, they may not be able to. And so, and in those cases, quite frankly, generally speaking, it's not something the city's going to do either. Without, you know, being willing to spend a lot of money on blight in the city, to go in and put siding on some private individual's home is just a pretty unusual remedy. But we haven't really had it get to that point, you know, a huge amount of times. I saw on your agenda there was an indication enforcement on cases that are at a standstill. I don't think we have any cases at a standstill unless somebody knows something about.
So that was from our last meeting. A big question was, and I think you've already answered. We get to that point where we're trying to enforce something, and maybe they enforce it, but then, maybe they enforce it, but then nothing happens. That was a perspective of the commission discussion.
I don't know what properties that would be referring to, because that's not been my experience. I've had, since there's been certainly a much stronger push from our current council about blight than we've ever had before. And I think probably in the last about 2 years, I've had over 40 cases that have come to my office on blight, 40 court cases. That's a lot. And I would say that probably at least twice as many of those blight issues officers were able to deal with before it even came to me.
Yeah, I think our number is we've investigated over 300 cases of blight in 22. So yeah, it's a tremendous amount.
And so the officer on the less involved cases, they take care of that, and I don't even see it, which is great. I mean, the city used to have a full-time building inspector, and he was the blight officer too. I had probably 2 blight cases in 5-10 years, you know, and it's just because he was able to get enforcement. But we don't, you know, I mean, now the officers, they're protecting and serving. They got, you know, their priorities, and they do what they can with blight, and they've done I think a really good job. It's been a great push, I think, and I think it's been a good thing for the city. You know, over 40 blight cases is quite a bit for a city our size, I think, in 2 years. So that's the enforcement process. Occasionally, though, we end up getting a structure that there's nothing we can do about it. And where we get to the point that the cost of dealing with the blight is greater than what the value of the property is, or is greater than what it would be even if we dealt with it, that's a case that the house needs to be demolished. We tried to get demolition to occur by the property owner, and I probably in all my time have had that happen one time, where the property owner took care of it. But again, where we get to the point of a structure being so bad that it needs to be demolished, it's typically a person that can't afford to do it. And so the city has demolished a number of homes over the years. When we do it, there's really no hope to get our money back out of it. We'll take a lien. We've got a lien on a property that we took down the garage and the house last year, maybe, I guess, 12th Street.
Yeah, I think that was early last year.
And we have a lien for, I don't know, the cost is in the neighborhood of what, 15 grand probably at least.
Typically 15 to 18 is what the price is.
And so we got a lien for that, but we'll never get our money out of it. And so the city council will have to, you know, that's the struggle. How much money do we want to budget for those sorts of things? But we have done it. I mean, we've taken down a few, so.
I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of goes for both of you guys. So I don't understand why when we do the rental inspections and they get the certificate, I don't understand why we can't ask for a copy of homeowner's insurance. Like when they renew their certificate, they send him a copy of their homeowner's insurance. So if, in the case that something happens to the house and it's a landlord that doesn't have homeowner's insurance, we're not stuck with the bill demolishing it. I asked it a couple years ago, and for some reason
You mean like a fire takes place and they don't?
yeah.
What are we gonna do though if they don't? Are we gonna, we're not gonna impose that they have to have insurance. are we?
Yes. Why can't we?
You mean for a rental?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, I don't understand why that can't be a requirement, because then we're left holding the bill.
That'd be insurance.
Had that with a rental?
No.
No.
No, it's not a requirement, and I could
No,
tell.
no, I mean, we could look into that. I think you had mentioned that before.
'Cause I know.
We don't have that currently in the ordinance, the rental inspection ordinance. We can certainly look into that. I can't imagine a landlord not having insurance.
I can tell you there's one that has probably 8 properties that has no insurance on any of those properties.
The question is that a rental or land contract? The police department has found where they have a land contract, and we have had a fire on a road, and they have no insurance but a land contract, and I don't know how that works as well.
The land contract holder should hold the insurance, because the land contract holder is essentially the bank.
Yeah, that's
So they should
interesting.
have insurance on that property.
Well, the land contract will require the purchaser to secure insurance and prove it to the seller and under the.
Right, but most times the seller has insurance on it too, because
Not on a land contract, though.
sometimes they do, yeah. But yes, the purchaser should have insurance on it, so that house that he's talking about wouldn't have been an issue, but there was no insurance.
Oh, no, there was insurance on that.
I think we're talking about different houses.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, we can look at that. I don't know. I don't know about the city forcing that to happen. But yeah, we can look at that.
But if it's a rental, you would think that we would be able to add that to our rental inspection, that they give him a copy of their deck page for the insurance to get.
Yeah, but I'm saying if they don't, can we or should we be in the business of forcing that to happen, I suppose?
I mean, it would save us a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any fires for rentals. I mean, I don't think so. at
Okay.
least, but-
Another thing with the blight, so some of these houses that have mortgages on them,
Mhm.
you can just contact the mortgage company, because they sign a paper when they purchase that property that they will maintain the property.
Oh, we serve the mortgage company too.
Okay.
When we find out about it, because if we're gonna get a lien against the property, we need to notify them too.
Okay.
So we've done that. These mortgage companies that on these blighted structures are fly-by-night internet companies, and tracking them down is just is a huge chore.
Okay.
I mean, we did that with the 12th Street property. They had a $40,000 mortgage on it, I think, so.
Are you guys talking about the same thing? Are you talking about contacting the mortgage company to remedy the blight? Or to go at?
A notice that,
Okay.
that the property is, like the one that we have.
Right, I don't know if we've got a response back from that mortgage company or not.
Okay.
Look at that.
My other question was on the judgments. I guess I thought judgments were collected differently. Like do we collect any of judgments from blighted tickets or anything? Like, how does that work?
So if we get a money judgment, it's like any other money judgment. Sometimes the court, where it's civil infractions, will show cause the person in for not paying a fine or cost. If it's cost associated with our curing the blight, yeah, we could, if the city wanted, we could have a debtor's exam and bring the person in, garnish their bank account, garnish their wages.
Why don't we do that?
The only one that we have that I think is a real substantial one recently, the gentleman, I don't know, he can't have very much. I don't know if he's even, I can't imagine he's collectible, but we haven't done it.
That's just, my concern is, what's the point of a judgment then? Really, like, if we're not gonna collect on them, what's the
Well, we
point?
put a lien on the property, and the idea is that if there is going to be a sale of the property, our lien has to be paid. But, you get, for the one I'm thinking of is a demolition, $12,000 demolition, or $15,000 demolition, we'll never get paid on that. because the property's gonna go up for tax. I think actually it was getting foreclosed when I saw it in the newspaper, which our lien is after the
Right.
mortgage, so we're gone. We do have a bunch of judgments for fines and costs, but the city's not gonna have me go up to court on a debtor's exam or do a garnishment for $300.
But I mean, $300, it adds up. Like, we could put that money and then turn around and use it for what we're trying to do. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
but I mean,
if you got 10 cases at $300, that's
Yeah.
a lot of money to us. Like,
it is. You're not gonna pay the city attorney though to go and collect $300. I mean, there's just no value to that. I suppose we could turn some of those judgments over. I mean, we use a collection agency for parking tickets.
We do,
We could probably talk about turning that. Bill asked me recently, I don't know if he passed it on to you or not, asked me for copies of some judgments that we may have had
okay.
that in our judgments, and I sent it on to him.
Yeah, I mean.
We could turn over the collection agency.
I just don't understand the point of, I mean, if everybody knows, hey, you're gonna get a ticket, but you're not really gonna get a ticket, and if you get a judgment, I mean, they're not. Really gonna
Some of them have paid. Some of them certainly have paid. I mean, it's just like a speeding ticket too. The speeding ticket doesn't get paid, they lose their driver's license. We don't have that power.
Okay.
But some have paid. Actually, I saw one guy right after the hearing went out and paid the fine. Again, a lot of these are, I understand the blighted structures are typically people that don't have any money. And so,
Yeah, but if we enforced those tickets, they would take it seriously and stop having a blighted like they would get, hey, this is gonna cost me.
well, that was the idea behind our notice of violation was, man, if we keep on hitting them financially, this is gonna work. That it didn't, as far as getting correction. But we can turn over, I mean, like I said, we've got a bunch of money judgments and turn it over to collection and see if I think we use Great Lakes Collection Agency and see if they can collect those.
Yeah, another challenge, we talked about standstill. Sometimes we get judgments to clean up junk off of property, and the person just refuses to clean up the junk, and that becomes a safety issue because maybe the resident there was threatening the police or something. And then how do we resolve that issue? We can't exactly hire a private company to go on to private property when the person's already been aggressive and threatening. So those are some other challenges we face when we talk about getting remedies. So it's not black and white. It's a complicated deal, but I think it's important to keep having these conversations about strategies and what does the strategy look like in the front end and then the back end as far as collecting fines. So nothing is simple when it comes to these, but it's important to keep having these conversations, I think.
I think you'd see if we went back and looked at the 40-plus civil infraction citations that have been issued, I think probably most of those, at least the issue that they were ticketed for has been dealt with. So, I mean, I think we've seen pretty good success with it. But.
Are these blighted properties paying their taxes?
No, not always. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, our lien goes in and then it goes up for tax sale and where our lien goes away too.
Yeah.
But once it goes up for tax sale, the county owns it. And then they'll sell it to somebody else, and then we're either dealing with that person or we're dealing with the county, one of the two. Now, we've got the 1001 Kujasco Street, I think, that the city took action at, purchased it out of tax sale, now is deeding it back to the county land bank so that they got some blight funds, so they're gonna hopefully deal with that property, so.
Same thing, I think 530 Davis Street, the city acquired the same thing and the same process in the grant. And so we're hoping that we think we know that the land bank is getting funds for those, but we're looking down the road if there's a cycle two for that grant to have other properties. And ideally, I'd like to have, if we have orders to demolition residences in town where the owner doesn't demolish the residence, I'd like to have those lined up if we have a cycle two of this grant to provide funds for demolition of those properties. So,
Yeah, the Davis Street one is somebody had invested in this property. What a bad investment for him it was. But he ended up, our resolution with him was he deeded the property to the city.
So what happens when a person purchases a blighted property? Like, are there, is there rules that they have to follow in order to get it out of the blighted
So that's a good question, because we have one going on right now, that there's a pending ticket against the seller, which presumably they're informing the purchaser. I was told by the seller, he's got a buyer for the property, and that buyer knows of the issue, because we have a blight issue and we have a illicit connection to the city sanitary sewer system. It's got a sump that's connected to the sewer, which is illegal. So we've got tickets on those pending, but what he's told me is that the buyer understands that, and they're gonna, I guess, try to renovate the property and deal with those issues. So, but if they didn't, then they're gonna be stuck in the same boat that the current owner is, and they're gonna get cited, and, you know, we'll go through this process we just talked about. And just-
One of the challenging things that our officers have faced is that when properties change hands multiple times, I know we have one property that we've spoke about numerous times, it's changed hands at least 5 times in 2 years, and so we kind of have to start the process over. That's been extremely challenging.
But I think to Kelly's point, why do we have to start it over though?
Yeah.
Why do
We have to give the new owner proper notice in order to have a court hearing and due process.
I usually, like, because I sell blighted properties all the time, I usually put them on notice that it's either been cited or you're getting ready to get cited for this, this, and this.
Yeah, because the seller's disclosure statement that they provide
supposed to say
requires, one of the things we have to require is telling them if there is any pending.
Yeah.
But there's like no way we can say, all right, you have 90 days, if, as the purchaser, you have 90 days to clean it up?
No.
You can't.
Well, there are some communities that have
That's what
ordinances.
I'm saying. Why can't we have that?
I don't want to put you on the spot, Kevin, but maybe you could speak to this, ordinances that require, if you're selling a house that's been deemed uninhabitable, there's some requirements.
Right.
Part of the 2021 property maintenance code, there is a section in there that allows you not to transfer properties to the place taken care of. And we have to enforce it as part of our ordinance if we choose to use that subsection of the code.
So can we?
I think if we did that, we would never sell a house.
I don't know how you'd enforce it, to be honest.
Because-
If a buyer doesn't know about it and buys into it, what's the, I don't know, I don't know how we would deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, we have other provisions in other ordinances that allow council to take action. My concern always has been is to afford the owner of the property adequate due process, which usually means through a court proceeding. So the only time that I think what we're only discussing here is the instance where we've cited the owner of the property and they're selling it before we get into court. Because if we get into court, yeah, then we're gonna have an order that requires the property to be corrected. And if they sell it to somebody else and knowing what's going on, we're okay there. We're gonna enforce it even against that new buyer. But for the most part, we want that new buyer to make sure that they're aware of the issues before we take some action against the property. So it's just affording them some level of due process. Questions, any other? All right, very good.
Thank you, Mr. Saylor, I appreciate you
There you
being
go.
here.
Yes, Kevin, if you had anything, you could take this time if you.
Add anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, should I do background, or what do you guys think? Jermaine, what do you think?
Sure.
Okay, my background, I'm 35 years builder developer. I've built over 1,000 living units. I've done land balancing, I've done land development, I've done commercial, high-end residential. That's my background. I do have a house in Manistee. It was an Airbnb. I had it for the last 8 years. I've been always trying to get up here because I'm an East Sider, and as soon as this job opened up, that's what made me come up here, because that's where I want to retire. I want to stay here. This is my home. I love it up here. And I've been doing inspections for Safe Built for about 2 years now, give or take, part-time in Troy, and then starting here full-time in June of last year. I am part of the blight ordinance officers down in Muskegon, but they lost some inspectors, so now I'm full-time building down there. But I did a lot of their blight stuff. I understand their programs on how they work with their blight. That's pretty much it. And I do the rental inspections up here all the time. And that's my primary, when focusing on blight, to reiterate what George said, yes, that's where I can really attack blight on a rental issue. I have lots of ideas to help out. I'm willing to come to any workshop you guys want, or I can openly discuss it here, or whatever you guys want. But I've seen a lot of the things you guys are talking about, and I just want to jump up and say something. Because you guys were talking about trade base. Trade base up here is horrible. We're having a hard time getting roofers, mechanical guys, everything. And I know a lot of them, but I am under orders never, ever, and Josh will agree with this, you don't refer people because then you're liable. The city will become liable if I refer a contractor. We did that even in my own construction company. I could never refer anybody. I think maybe a community bulletin board would be a great idea, but I advertise, hey, if you guys need a contractor, come see this board, either in Kevin's office or wherever you guys see fit. Here, and then tell all the trades, put your cards on that wall. Give people, like a social, or if you want to do it on Facebook or something like that, a place to put things so people can attack getting the things fixed. Because that's the biggest complaint I get. Kevin, I can't get the roof done. I can't get a mechanical guy. I can't get an electrician. And they're constantly asking me for stuff, and I can't help them. There's no mechanism for us to do that. And I can talk to you about how Muskegon handles their blight. They have a really good program. If you're curious, I can elaborate on that. I can ask, whatever you guys want on me. I'm pretty easy going that way.
Elaborate, yes.
Okay, Muskegon has a blight program. They currently have about 45,000 people compared to our 5,000. So they have a much bigger city. But they have, I'm trying to think, about 6 or 7 people alone that handle blight full-time at Muskegon. They have a full-time grant writer. That's all she does. She brings in millions of dollars to help the city of Muskegon. That's how Muskegon is building their community back up. And she explained to me, Kevin, when you do a grant, when you're getting accepted at the grant level, sorry, I'm trying to think all this through, you have to be able to administer it, and that's what the grant writers are looking for. 1, you get the money. 2, you distribute it, and you distribute it immediately. There's 3 people alone that do that in Muskegon. And she will do outsource. Bill and I have been talking about, how do we, because the biggest thing I've found is, and we're right, I can write tickets all day. I hate writing tickets, by the way, but I can write tickets all the time, but if the people can't afford to do it, what do we do? That's the biggest question. And they have a whole service set up, and I can bring that paperwork at a workshop or bring it in next time. Wasn't prepared for that today. And I can give you all their services they do, and they do re-siding. They do new roofs. They do painting. They do lead abatement. They do everything that you guys are looking for, but the city took it on to do it themselves. And they have a whole little department. That's all they do is administer those funds, get the contractors. They get a list of 3 or 4 of them, and that's all you do is siding. All you do is roofing. And they help the community out by rebuilding it, but it all starts at the grant writing process and getting someone on board doing that full time. I mean, millions. I'm talking, it's unbelievable. And they also use that, and they also go for, when you get into the grant writing processes, they go into block grants. In other words, like say like the Marshall area, okay, we guys all familiar with Marshall? Mm-hmm. They would identify that neighborhood as a block grant and go to the state, and they could fix up the whole neighborhood, not just one unit. By identifying, first you do a survey, then you apply for, so do a survey of what houses are blighted. That's part of the Marshall area, just in quote. Then it goes to the grant writer, then they go to the state, they go to HUD, they go to the feds. There's a lot of programs out there. There was even a program a year ago that helped landlords. If landlords couldn't afford to fix stuff up, there was a program for that. So it all started from the economic issue, which I think is what we're dealing with mostly, because if they can't afford to fix it, we're really spinning our wheels, in my opinion. Yes, I can write tickets, and I can enforce, but if they can't do it, I don't know what we can do at that point, like George said. Ideas? Questions?
I think it'd be good if you could send us that information.
You'll get it.
Yeah,
I got it downstairs.
okay.
Sorry, I was running back and forth. I have office hours today at 10 o'clock, so.
I will say that working with Kevin, I'm not saying anything about his predecessors, but it's been a great resource for police officers and for the officers downstairs, working with him and his nature and, you know, the fields overlap, blight, rental inspection, everything, building permits. You gotta get building permits, so it all kind of overlaps together, so it's been a real boost for us working with someone like him who's proactive and aggressive in the right way, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, blight is a team effort. I alone can't do it. Josh's guys and him can't do it alone. We all have to work together to fix it because it's so complex. And I see the people's faces when I hit them with the tickets. And when I see an elderly lady that's crying because I want her to reside her house, I do have a heart, guys. And she goes, Kevin, I can't do it. I'm on a fixed income. What do I tell that person? Even if I have enforcement to it. And George is right, the MCI tickets, the internal tickets, we did about, with the rental program, I think we had about 60 or 70 last year. Don't quote me on that. Only 4 or 5 went to CI. Most of the people tried to comply, which is a really good thing.
What's CI?
Going right to court. Okay, it's an internal thing, and we're not writing tickets to make money. That actually costs us more money, I believe, in the long term to write a ticket. We always want compliance, and that's what works with us. But yeah, I got lots and lots of ideas, guys. Sorry.
I think you should come visit us. We should have a session that he can come in.
Whenever you guys want me at a work session, just let me know.
Yeah.
I think we should do that soon.
I like that.
Okay. Any other questions about me or what I do or anything? I'm pretty open.
I have a question on rental, because some rentals are not probably signing up to be on the rental program.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So how do you handle that, or don't?
We do handle that. We have, if they're not registered as a rental, that was the tickets I was talking about. We had 60 or 70 of them last year that weren't registered. We sent them an MCI ticket, an internal one, and like I said, out of the 60 or 70, most of them complied or got off the rental program because they're not rentals. A lot of it's, our database at the county is not updated very often, even though they say it's updated every couple of weeks. I think it's updated maybe once a year if we're lucky. So it's constantly changing. And no, but we did that. That was part of that program. Try to keep them around. But the thing is, a lot of the times we don't know if they're rentals. So I always find there's a lot of people say, hey, Kev, I think it's a rental. Go check it out. And we write them letters and stuff like that and say, hey, if you're rental, try to get registered. If not, then we'll send you a ticket. I don't know what else we can do. It's hard to identify which is a rental, which is not. And some people want nothing to do with the rental program. Some other ideas I have, I'm saying 80 to 90% of the problems I have with landlords in Manistee are the out-of-town landlords. I had one, the guy hasn't been up to his house in 3 years. He lives in Florida. I was there last week. When you turn the lights on and cockroaches crawl over your hands up and down the walls, you get a little disgusted. So don't think my job's glamorous at all. And he's trying to make amends with it right now. But there were people actively living in that, and they were crawling across the boy that was sleeping in the bed while I was in there. And that's what I deal with every day, and seeing, and these people are disadvantaged, but at the same token, they were living in filth.
Yeah, nobody needs to do that.
No. A quote I got from that same landlord, Kevin, I am doing the city of Manistee a service. If you make me fix, I'm quoting him now, if you make me fix everything on that list, I'll have to kick them out and raise the rent. That was his thinking. And so, and like I said, most of my problems, even with the short-term rentals to me are usually a lot better taken care of because they just won't get good feedback and they won't get re-rentals. But again, everybody that doesn't have a local property manager usually is 80 to 90% of my problems. There's a couple, but not many. The one that's local, but they're within 30 miles, as I was thinking of on Ramsdale. So, any other questions? A good question.
Doesn't seem like it. I think it'd be good to understand what we could do to
Yeah.
assist you as a commission as well, so.
Okay. Well, like I said, if my idea or goal is to maybe not do what Muskegon does, but on a much smaller scale, someone that does grants and we can get a community development service going, I think that would help us because we're missing out on millions, guys. I mean it. There's lots of funds out there.
Yeah, it would be good to know what those are, because I mean, we've put some time into
Yeah.
searching that as
But you
well.
have to be laser focused. That's all that person does. I got her name. Bill's got it. I gave
And I
it.
think Tracy is
Starting to do that as well.
that person, yeah.
If that's the person you guys want, that's fine, but someone has to be laser focused, and their job is directly tied to getting money in, and then we need a team to allocate those funds as soon as we get the money.
Could we schedule a work session, like within 2 weeks, and schedule it now?
Mhm. Yeah, we can talk about items that, what items would you want to discuss at that? No, just items that he's talking about
Yeah.
for grants and.
I think we should just know exactly, yeah.
What is Muskegon doing? What ideas you have?
Right.
And a lot of it's based at Muskegon, and they are rebuilding they tore down last year 70 to 80 houses and rebuilt them.
Wow.
And it's all part of the block grant funds, and they're doing very well.
So 2 weeks from now is the 27th. Do you know what your availability is, Kevin?
Is it gonna be after work or during the day, or what do you guys?
At the same time?
Same time. The only thing is I have office hours from 10, I kind of blew them that today, from 10 to 11. That's the only time I have a commitment. I really should be downstairs helping John Q. Public. Other than that, I can do it all day long.
Could do 9 o'clock.
Can we do it anytime, so we can get the most out of what he has to offer?
Yeah, I think so. I was just trying to keep it simple, so.
It's up to you guys. It's just the 10, 11, I shouldn't really be down.
Does 9 to 10?
10 to 11 is my only time I gotta really be down there.
9
And as long as they don't give me 90 inspections that day. I had one day I had 27.
We could do 9 to 10, I mean, if it's the only thing we're doing.
What was the date, February 27th?
27th, yeah. I think we have to vote on that.
At 9 AM, you said?
Yeah. So it'd just be a work session. So I'll make a motion to make a commission work session with Kevin Kriebel on February 27th at 9 AM.
Okay. Do you guys want me to get the information beforehand so you can take a look at some of the pamphlets and handouts, or do you want to bring it all at the
Be
same time?
great.
Please.
Okay, so you guys get that thing? Okay, I'll give them to you guys.
Yeah, I think we need.
Lucas Richardson?
Yes.
Jermaine Sullivan?
Yes.
Kelly Greavy?
Yes.
Mary Kay Wilkosh?
Okay. Well, thanks, Kevin, for your time.
Well, you guys are welcome.
Talk to
Thank
you
you.
in a couple weeks. All right, next item is an election for secretary. So John McCracken was the secretary before, and obviously he's not on the commission anymore. So we need to elect a secretary for the term that ends in April.
I was,
I nominate Kelly Greavy.
hey,
And I think we should wait for,
Kathy.
her,
How is Kathy at taking notes? How's Kathy at taking notes?
So let this be clear though, too, I believe Mary.
The secretary would have to take notes in the absence of my
Right.
secretary, Mary.
Yeah, Mary Dilworth would still be the recording
and
secretary.
we could never fill your shoes, so.
All right, so we have a motion for Kelly and a motion for Mary.
You wanna just wait till Kathy's here?
We'll talk her into it.
So this is gonna be, so I will move to table this until the next meeting.
Okay.
And so our bylaws and our ordinance say we have elections for annual, so that's why it would be for just until April 2023. And then sometime in April or, yeah, it would have to be an April meeting, we would do the next year of elections, so. So there'd be a secretary for a good month and a half there.
So you're making a motion to table this election process?
Yeah.
It sounds like
You made the
commission
motion,
would
you
like-
second the motion? Probably should roll call that, I imagine, just for,
Richardson.
Yes.
Jermaine Sullivan.
Yes.
Kelly Creevy.
Yes.
Mary Kay Wilkosh.
Yes.
a lot of happy yeses.
All right, public comment.
One thing, you guys voted to have Kevin come back. I've already asked the manager a couple of weeks ago to schedule Kevin to come to address the council.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah, he's on our agenda for next month for the work session, yeah,
Okay.
for our work session.
So we're gonna meet him before you guys do that?
Yes.
You've got clout.
All right, anything from you, Kelly?
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate what I said earlier after listening to George and then Kevin. Man, there's much deeper issues that I think, I just feel like going out and cleaning things is just a Band-Aid. I mean, man, all the stuff that all the information, I mean, it's just a lot. It's a lot, and I feel this is really important to get it right.
I think it's a big part of our purpose of this commission is to identify some of these resources that Kevin and George have talked about, and
Yeah,
it's good, it's good things.
that's it.
Mary,
Nothing for you? Nothing.
Josh? All right, next meeting is, I guess now February 27th, for a work session. Make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
One second.
Yeah,
Motion from Jermaine and second from Kelly to adjourn.
okay, thank you.